So this week in the ACC is going to be one of two things. It is either going to be a boring snooze fest that makes you wonder why anyone even cares about the conference or whether they should get an automatic berth in the first place, or it's going to be hectically chaotic and you just can't get enough of it. I'm rooting for the second one. Not saying I'm rooting for any particular team to lose, just that chaos is always more fun for someone in my position. But I say that because the lineup this week in the ACC, at this point in the year when we know definitively the ACC is going to be a one-bid league, because SMU, who I'm going to talk about in just a moment, SMU can't crack the top 12. Their only loss is by 3 points to a currently top 10 ranked undefeated BYU team, the favorites in the Big 12. SMU's beaten everybody else. But the committee doesn't look at the ACC and see a lot of great teams. And you know what? I have a hard time blaming them. There are some solid teams. There are some good teams. There are not a lot of great teams over in the ACC, especially since Clemson has taken themselves down a rung after playing at what looked like a championship level for a couple months. And then they decided, let's go back to being the modern day Clemson. None of this old Clemson nonsense. No, we want to stick with this new version of Clemson in which we're just, we're there. So SMU plays Boston College this week, and Boston College now has a transfer at the quarterback position, a transfer out. His name is Thomas Castellanos, and if you understand that reference, let me know. But he's transferring away from the program because he's no longer the starting quarterback. He was the starter this year. Remember when Boston College, week 1, I think it was, beat Florida State, and it was, whoa, Boston College? They were like a 17.5-point underdog. We didn't know FSU was terrible yet. We thought they just weren't great, but turns out they were horrifically bad, but that doesn't matter. Boston College beating Florida State, that's a big deal. That's a big deal in Chestnut Hill. So Boston College has got a quarterback transferring out of the room. That means one of two things, and there's not a lot of in between. Just like I don't think there's a lot of in between with how the ACC goes as a league this week as far as how the games play out. It's either chaos or boredom. I'm hoping for chaos. One of two things happen when you make a quarterback change, and then the guy who gets replaced says, I'm transferring out of the program. I don't want to be here anymore. That either disrupts the chemistry and things go awry, or it introduces a spark like Haj Malik Williams at UNLV. Matthew Sluka says, no, I wanted NIL, and UNLV says, okay, we're going to put this other guy in, and he's arguably playing even better football at the moment. So I'm leaning towards, I don't know if I love the vibes here. I think Boston College started hot, maybe peaked a little early, and they've been coming down. SMU's on the up and up. This is the favorite to win the ACC from a record standpoint. They're the only unbeaten team in ACC play. I think SMU beats Boston College. I think SMU covers as well. I think this is a big win. 42-16. I think SMU beats Boston College. How about Clemson? The aforementioned Clemson Tigers. They're going to Pitt this week in a game between two good teams. That's it. There's nothing great about these teams. The loser's probably unranked. Probably unranked. And you know what? Probably should be. And the winner, Pitt is already unranked, of course, but if they win, they'll be back in the top 25. If Clemson loses, they should be out of the top 25. Tigers are favored by 10 points. It's on the road, though. Let me ask you, do you have a lot of confidence in Clemson to go on the road and cover 10 points against a Pitt team that is good but not great? I do not. So I think Clemson wins, but I think this is close. Clemson wins the game. This is going to be a weird score. You ready? Get ready. Brace yourself. 27-25. Clemson beats Pitt on the road. Notre Dame is not an ACC team. They're playing an ACC team, though. And amongst the underrated surprises in the ACC this year, Virginia is one of them. They're not making national news. They're not rewriting the record books or anything, but they're just trotting along. And, they're on track to be a bowl team. Well, they could be on track to be a bowl team. So they knocked off Pitt last week, knocked them out of the top 25. But the problem that they have is their remaining schedule goes like this. They go at Notre Dame this week. They're a 23-point dog. They host 14th ranked SMU, and they go at Virginia Tech. They might miss a bowl game, but it's still a pretty solid season for the Cavaliers. They are 23-point dogs, as I mentioned, in Notre Dame. I think they'll cover. Yeah, I said it. Virginia's going to go into South Bend, and they're going to cover. That's it. Notre Dame wins the football game 38-23. How How about Louisville and Stanford? So Louisville goes to Stanford. They make that cross-country trip. They go to the farm. Stanford's down in the dumps, 1-5 in ACC play. Everything was looking up after that win against Syracuse early this season, but Troy Taylor and company just haven't been able to get it going. And Louisville, meanwhile, back in the top 25, going to Stanford. The number's just a little bit too high. Little bit too high. 38-20. I take Louisville to win, but Stanford, I think, just covers that particular number. They're due for a cover, which is, unfortunately for the Cardinal, and I have a semi-affinity to them because my grandparents went there and are Cardinal fans. Yeah, that's as good as they do nowadays. They cover and you go, oh well, hey, yeah, that was a good performance, but yeah, that's kind of it. Wake Forest goes to North Carolina. Mac Brown is pushing for bowl eligibility. So too is Wake Forest. Similar stakes here, as in they're not very high. They're in fact very low in the national scheme of things in college football. But North Carolina's at home, favored by over 10 points. I'm loving me some dogs this week. I think North Carolina wins the game 26-17. 26-17, I'll take North Carolina here. Wake Forest, yeah. Those are my official thoughts on the Demon Deacons here. How about a surging team in Cal? Yeah, that's right. I said it. Cal, surging team. They're 1-4 in the ACC. Syracuse is already bowl eligible. Cal's still trying to get there. Cal still has to play Stanford. That's probably the biggest game on their schedule. They had the 4-game winning streak, but suddenly Cal has figured some things out. And it's not as if they never showed the glimpses, the potential. I mean, they lost to Florida State by 5, to Miami by 1, to Pitt by 2, to NC State by 3. That's just pain and suffering there for Golden Bears fans. And unfortunately, that's been standard operating procedure under Justin Wilcox is, boy, they are so close to being good, but they're not quite there. But last couple of weeks, offense, 45 points per game against a Syracuse team that, look, they're not a defensive stopper. They've got plenty of offense, though. Cal's favored by 7.5. That number's too big. That number's too big because for the Golden Bears in this spot, to win by that many, you'd have to play complementary football. Anytime you're going to beat a good, solid team like Syracuse by more than a touchdown, you have to play complementary football. You have to do some of the little things well. But mostly, you got to be competent on both sides. That's why Miami doesn't blow a lot of people out. They can't play any defense. Miami has a bye this week, which also makes the ACC slightly less interesting than it can be because Miami's the most interesting team in the ACC this year, of course. But I digress. Cal's got to be able to play well on both sides. And yeah, they've done that once in the last 2 games against Oregon State. But against Wake Forest, yeah, the defense kind of had some lapses late, but the offense was really good. The offense ran the football, and Fernando Mendoza looked like the good version of Fernando Mendoza. So I'll take Cal to win. But again, I like the underdogs this week in the ACC. Give me Wake Forest to cover, and Cal wins a close one, 30-28. That's how everything's playing out in the ACC this week. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.